Joseph Mupoyi, the transfer from Penn State that I talked about, so far, in his career, played in just 2 games over the last 2 seasons. So he's going to come in as a sophomore with 3 years of eligibility left. He's played just 4 snaps, had 1 total tackle. But you go back to 2022 in his senior year of high school, 54 total tackles, 26 tackles for loss, and 14 sacks as a senior. So there is a lot of potential here. That type of production has been there at one point in his career. And this really goes back to some of the guys that I was talking about with Carolina. His body is a little bit different. He's built a little bit different than those guys. But those guys were players who put up huge numbers in high school. Malachi Hamrick, Curtis Simpson. I mean, they put up massive numbers at the high school level. Now you wonder, can Mupoyi be the guy that put up massive numbers at the high school level and that Belichick and his staff can get more out of than Mac Brown was able to get?
Certainly hope so, right? I think is that like our baseline expectation when it comes to Belichick and the guys that he held over from the Mac Brown era, is that you're going to get more out of these guys? Because I guess that's where I am, and maybe that's not fair to Mac, but I guess this is part of the territory when you hire an 8-time Super Bowl winning head coach who is maybe the best defensive mind the game of football has ever seen, and so I guess that's where I am for a lot of these dudes that stayed, that did not have big roles, but maybe are poised to take a step forward because you've got a new scheme. You've got a new system. You've got a new way of doing things. That there's talent and production there. And now it's just seeing it at the college level. And is he now poised to do so with what he's being asked to do now, as opposed to what he was being asked to do last year while playing for Mac Brown and Jeff Collins? So I think it's what makes this unit, I think, fun and very intriguing and very interesting. You've maybe got the guys that when they take the field against TCU, Mims, Yates, Dontre Robinson, maybe those are guys that you expect to be difference makers. But I think this room does offer for guys to kind of emerge as the season moves along, as these guys get comfortable and acclimated to playing for Belichick. And Mupoyi's, I think, a dude that if we look up and he's playing a rotational role when they go to Stanford, when they play Cal, when they play Virginia, I don't think we would be surprised. Whereas if he was probably playing for Mac Brown and he kind of came from the bottom of the depth chart all the way up to where he was playing, 10 to 15 snaps a game, that would probably be surprising, just given that staff's inability to create legitimate depth among the roster.
Well, the good news for Mupoyi is he is not a guy that was on the roster last year. He was at Penn State. If I miscommunicated that's on me. But I still think he's a guy that you don't put up that type of production and it means nothing. Like when you're that productive at the high school level, and especially when you end up at Penn State, like you are a legitimate edge rusher. So to me, I think this is a guy, it just depends on, how long it takes. Is it going to be this year? Does a guy like Smith Vilbert really jump onto the scene and you don't necessarily need this young man? But I don't know. This could be a guy that Carolina looks at and says, no, we need you immediately. If they need him immediately, I think he's another guy that you look at and you say, was he in a system that just really didn't give him the opportunities out of the gate? Was that what was really holding him back because of all the guys that they have at Penn State? I think that certainly is something that could be at play here, but we'll just have to wait and see.